And we got to call the last two fights. And I felt pretty good about the call. Look, I've only done commentary for like 5 or 6 fights, not even events. You know, I pop in here, I pop in there. I feel like the interviewing can hang with the best of them. But the commentary is something, especially the third man seat. You have to know when to talk. You have to know what to provide and whatnot. We all saw what we saw in the Logan-Dillon fight. Dillon Danis, in my opinion, his game plan, based on what I saw and what I learned afterwards, was tire him out first 2 rounds, which I said, I think on the broadcast, I agreed with that game plan. It made sense. Tire him out. You know, you want to protect yourself for 2 rounds and hope that he unloads everything so that he's tired, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Great. But then come the 3rd, you have to start pouring it on. The problem was he never started pouring it on. He never started pouring anything on. And there's an issue. Look, we have to give him credit. He showed up. He made the walk. Most people said he wouldn't. Not us here. I said he would for this one, not the KSI one. So he showed up. One thing that I think we overlooked was he had never fought in a venue like that before. He never fought in front of a group of people like that before. You know, he's fighting on like, you know, MSG. That wasn't that big. Logan has done this now in front of 80,000 people. He has battled the nerves. And so that's one thing that I think we may have overlooked. But then come the 3rd round and come the end of the 2nd where Logan like unloaded on him, I think Dillon's approach was, I don't want to get knocked out, because you see that now, like he's mentioning how he wasn't knocked down, this and that. I don't want to be a meme. I don't want to embarrass myself. Let me just create a moment for myself, a la Nate Diaz. So you saw him trying to create moments with the guillotine, with the going down on his back, with the takedown, all that stuff. And it just became hard to watch, because like if you're going to talk all that shit and really not engage, and then do that, and then afterwards claim, hey, I'm just a jiu-jitsu guy, I don't have a coach, you know, I don't have any formal boxing training, and I beat you in a real fight. It's like, man, you knew this fight was coming. I had heard about this fight since May. Why don't you have a coach? That's on you. That's not on Logan or Misfits or anyone else. Why don't you have I mean, you could have been training the last few months. You were supposed to be training for KSI. Why didn't you throw a punch? Why didn't you take a chance? Why didn't you go to the body? Why didn't you do something? Why didn't you throw a jab? He was throwing like half spinning back fists. And so like it's hard for me to feel bad. I don't think that Dillon embarrassed himself to the point where he won't find any. If I'm Misfits, I bring him back. I try to book him again. I think he's found a lane for himself. But it was a little bit disappointing that it didn't. From the first minute of the fight, you could tell how this fight was going to go. And even if he never would have engaged throughout the entire fight, that would have been one thing. But to try to make the moment, to try to make the meme moment, that was the part I was like, this is a little bit silly. This is silly and hard to watch. Now, I will say this. He does have a point. I don't know why Logan's security guard stepped in twice. He stepped in once in the 5th and once in the 6th. Like, that's absurd to me. You cannot do that, even though it was getting a little bit crazy. Like, this, what were we doing? Security guards are jumping into the ring. It's like, it wasn't even to the point where it was getting that bad. Now, I understand he's going to try to appeal. I would just say move on with your life. The fight was over, and don't even waste your time or your manager's time or whatever. But, you know, that's his prerogative. Now we get to the main event, and this is the one that kind of blew me away, because then when I got online afterwards, people were like shitting on me for the commentary. I was like, what fight were you watching, and how was it different than the fight that I was watching? What I saw was a very frustrating fight to watch. In fact, I found the main event more frustrating than the co-main event. They were literally clinching every 2 seconds. It was impossible to see anything. Like, there was no engagement whatsoever. And you could blame both of them for that. And I'm okay with saying that I hold Tommy to a higher standard for 2 reasons. Number one, he's a professional boxer. From the professional boxing family, he comes from boxing royalty. You can't hold KSI to that same standard. He's the YouTuber guy. He hasn't fought anyone like Tommy Fury. He was fighting guys named Swarms and Pineda and all these guys like a year ago. And so, yes, maybe I'm a little more critical towards Tommy, but also let's not forget, he said to us repeatedly, including on this show on Wednesday, including on Thursday, including on Friday, a decision isn't enough. I have to stop this guy, and if I get a decision, that to me is a loss. And then when you get the decision, a very close one to boot, you're crying like you just won the heavyweight title. That's bizarre to me. That's the problem with diminishing your opponent's skills leading up to a fight so much to the point where we all think, okay, this guy's going to get steamrolled, and then you win by the skin of your teeth, and you're reacting like that. I thought he fought way better against Jake Paul. He didn't use his length. He didn't fight on the outside. He didn't use his distance. He didn't use his jab. And I know that KSI's style is very awkward and it's more suited for kickboxing. And I would think that he would tire himself out by the time he got to the 6th round. You could tell he was getting really tired. And I get that it's unorthodox, but he landed some of the bigger shots. And it just seemed like Tommy had no idea what to do with it, which kind of blew me away. A lot of clinching on both their parts. I thought early on, Tommy was clinching in order to tire out KSI because he is the bigger guy and he can, like, you know, rough him up a little bit. But then towards the end, I was like, guys, what are we doing? Like, he can't cut off the angles. He can't evade KSI coming in. KSI is trying to close the distance. I get that, and eliminate the jab, but I just felt like Tommy should be able to figure that out and pop him with a couple shots here and there. In the end, I scored it 3-3 with the point deduction. I think KSI has a very strong point, and I think he has a strong case for the win. Saw some people scored 4-2. I don't know, but I thought it was a dreadful fight to watch. And I said that on the broadcast. I said this was unwatchable. And I don't know how many people would say that. And that's not a knock on Misfits or DAZN or anything like that. It was a tremendous production. I said it on Friday. I said it on Saturday. But I got to tell it like it is. It was a very tough fight to watch. And after the performance in February in Riyadh, I was expecting more from Tommy. I thought this was a mistake from KSI. I didn't think that you know, he was at the level of a Tommy Fury. He surprised me that he was able to go 6 rounds with him and, you know, hit him with some shots, you know, got him in the 1st round and survived that. And I just thought that Tommy would do what he told us he was going to do, which was, you know, stop him early on. 2nd round, 3rd round, bigger guy, you know, if he just sticks to his jab and boxes him, he'd be able to figure that out with his hands down. And he's doing kind of like that, like bouncy jumping jack star jump thing. I thought he'd be able to figure him out. And so, you know, the post-fight interview aftermath was very, you know, interesting with them going back and forth. And then we did the, you know, goodbye. And then I went back, and then I went on Twitter, and everybody was like, you need to die. You should never do commentary ever again. I was like, what? What are you guys talking about? What are you talking about? But now I've seen some other people say that they, you know, they liked it and all that stuff, and that's fine. I'm still kind of learning that side of the game. I like being in the 3rd man role. I would never pretend to be the 2nd guy in the chair. And then when it comes to the interviews, I love doing that stuff in the ring, in the locker room, all that. That is some buzz. I adore that sort of thing. So overall, I think that, you know, I was talking to Mams a little bit yesterday, and he was saying that, you know, he was obviously bummed, and I get that, but they need to appreciate what they built there. You know, I thought that was a moral victory for KSI going the distance, and I don't want to see the rematch. I said it to him. I said it publicly. No rematch. Give us KSI, Jake Paul. In fact, as I'm saying this, I'm seeing a press release right now that Jake Paul is going to return on December 15th on DAZN. And it doesn't appear as though an opponent has been announced. I don't think that's going to be KSI. And it's fine if they had this booked already. But, like, could the next one be KSI? I don't want to see the Tommy Fury thing anymore. Like, they both tried to conquer that pro boxing mountain, and they both came relatively close and had their moments. But now I think it's time to move on and fight each other, because you see them go on Twitter afterwards and take shots at each other. It's like, guys, you're in the same sphere. There's no reason why. It's not like one fights for Bellator and one fights for the UFC. You have to figure this out. You can't keep, you know, teasing us like this. This whole thing was built on you versus him. This whole rivalry is like 2-3 years in the making, maybe even more. And KSI told us he was coming back to fight Jake Paul. Let's go. Give us the fight. We can't get to the point where boxing is now, traditional boxing is now making the fights, and you guys aren't. That's bad. That's bad for the influencer scene. That's really bad. So in the end, as we round 3rd here, it was fun. I think people need to understand what they're watching, lighten up, chill on the sanctimonious bootlicking tweets. No one cares that you're, you know, I love the ones who get critical only when they know it's okay to be critical. Only when they know, you know, the powers that be will be okay with the criticism. Criticize, you know, Bellator, criticize this, criticize the Jake fights, only when they, you know, they know it's okay. But they profit off of it. The YouTube channel is filled with it. The tweets are all about it. I can't wait for the breakdowns of UFC Apex 745. Why aren't you doing that if that was the real fighting? Come on. It's disingenuous, and those going out there and saying like, oh, shame on us, shame on this. Like, bro, get out of here. Fuck out of here. What are you talking about? You knew exactly what this was. Don't pretend like you are higher than all of this. And there was a chance that the fights would have ended up being better than we thought, but overall, that's what I expected out of Dillon Danis to a degree. I did not expect him to knock out Logan Paul. Did I pick him to win? Yes. Was I kind of put on the spot there as the MMA guy? Perhaps. But, you know, come on. I actually think that the surprise to me of the night was that KSI went the distance and that Tommy couldn't figure him out. And even Tommy's brother, his own brother, spoke to Fight Hub afterwards and said in so many words that the performance was dreadful. If that isn't enough for you, then what is? You're biased. Biased to who? To what? Not paid by any of these guys. If they never asked me back, then so be it. Thought I brought something to the table. Thought I helped it out. I had a good time. I said it was unwatchable. What more do you want? I will say this. The tag team was actually kind of fun. That was actually another surprise for me. When the one guy got dropped, I think it was Pineda, and then he brings in B. Dave, and this guy's going crazy Tasmanian Devil, knocking everyone down, and like that was actually kind of fun. I will say that. There is a lane for all of this. They are never going to pretend to be traditional boxing. They're never going to pretend to be, but like if you can't recognize that there's a massive fan base, especially with young kids, and they're selling out arenas like the AO Arena in Manchester, and they're pulling in the numbers that they're pulling on YouTube, online, on pay-per-view. There's a world for this. I mean, get me someone to break down the numbers like Dana breaks down the slap fighting numbers. It's remarkable. Slap fighting ain't selling out arenas like that. I can tell you that much. If you want to compare the two, which I don't think is fair to compare the two, they're not selling out 21,000 seat arenas. I don't even know if they're selling out the Apex, if I'm being honest. So those are some quick thoughts. I think Dillon should probably go back to MMA. I don't think he is a boxer or striker, as he has told us himself. It sounds like Logan is going back to WWE, which is fine. I think he can stay in this world and do some big fights. I don't really want to see Tommy compete in these types of fights anymore. I'd rather him as a 10-0 boxer just continue to mature and see how far he can go in that world. Big guy, marketable guy, but like in my post-fight interview with him, he said, I'm done with all this stuff. And I said, okay, so you're done? You don't want a Jake rematch or Logan? He's like, no, I'll fight them. I was like, what do we do? I'm confused here. If it was up to me, I would say, I know you're making a ton here, but like it's probably best for your career to go down that path. Or maybe I'm an idiot and say stick here, but like by the skin of his teeth, beating KSI is not the best look. And then KSI, I'd like to see fight Jake Paul. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much. Hey, if you like this video, give us the old thumbs up. Subscribe as well. You could get many more of these videos on the channel, so please do that. We would love you forever if you did so.